While they are in a super loaded AFC East, there's a lot of intrigue around this team. In the offseason, they have made some positive moves, not only with their player personnel, however, also with their staff. Bill O'Brien being an offensive coordinator that was added is a huge addition. Now I just look holistically, this division is going to be super tight. You have the Buffalo Bills, the Miami Dolphins, the New England Patriots, as well as the New York Jets, all of which should be relevant heading into next season. Today's video, we are going to look at the New England Patriots in their full season preview and predictions. If you do enjoy NFL content, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any more NFL videos. Now, taking a look at a flashback to 2022. This was a team that was 8-9. They had the 16th most points per game in terms of offense, and defensively, they allowed the 11th least points per game. I think when you look at the defense, that was really not the problem last season. They were generating turnovers. They had 20 interceptions as a team. They were forcing the ball out of the opponent's hands and gave it back to their offense. Now, the problem was this offense was not capitalizing at the level it should have. I look at Matt Patricia as being a guy that is going to, his departure is going to help this team tremendously. I know a lot of Patriot fans felt a negative way about Patricia, his play calling, and exactly where this offense was going under his direction. Bill O'Brien is a guy that has a lot of NFL experience. He has head coaching experience, and he has led some pretty prolific offenses through his tenure of his career. I think that this will help out Mac Jones tremendously during the course of the season. Now, if we remember, Mac Jones had some ups and some downs last year, which led to the Bailey Zappi experiment. This was an experiment that only lasted a couple of games, got to see some positive play out of him. However, he didn't show enough to truly be that guy heading into, quote, this season. Now, I look at Mac Jones. I believe he had a 14 touchdown to 11 interception ratio. Not all of that was on him. There was a lot of play calling issues. The guys on the perimeter were not getting enough separation, in my opinion. So they had to switch up some things during the course of the offseason. They had some subtractions to the offense. They had some additions. I think when you look in totality of what this team can be, there were a lot more positives than negatives in terms of what happened during the course of the offseason. You look at the defense, it remained strong last year, a near top 10 level defense. I think this is a lot due to the scheme that is continued to be provided by Bill Belichick year in and year out. He continues to find guys that directly, fit the scheme and can give him exactly what he's looking for. This New England Patriot defense will be legitimate once again in 2023, and I don't see that really changing. There's so many guys in positions to succeed, and I think they have a nice nucleus defensively that they can really focus on. Now, missing the postseason was pretty tough for Patriot fans to swallow. A lot of optimism that headed into 2022. However, I think there was a lot to learn throughout the course of the season about what this team can potentially be. And I think, to be completely transparent, there were a lot of positives. There were a lot of negatives throughout the course of the season. One of the other positives that you saw was the progression of Ramondre Stevenson. I think looking at him, he has shown he can be a league back in this NFL. This guy is impressive. Very, very impressive. He's a hard runner, shifty, a tough runner, a guy that can run in between the tackles. He can do it all for an offense, and I think he's ready to be a true bell cow again heading into 2023. So let's take a look at some of the key additions here. Juju Smith-Schuster is one of them. Smith-Schuster provided a big impact for the Kansas City offense. I think he will do the same here in New England. I know a lot of people are sad that Jacoby Myers is gone. Juju Smith-Schuster is going to be a nice fit for this team. I think this is an overall positive move. A good route runner, a guy that can be trusty across the middle of the field and can get open regularly with a ton of separation. Tight end Mike Gesicki is another positive move in that tight end room. Hunter Henry, Mike Gesicki are going to be a nice dynamic tight end duo. I think they're going to utilize their tight ends a ton this year with Bill O'Brien, and I think he could be a tremendous red zone threat heading into the season. That is the vision that the New England Patriots have offensively, and I think that really will account towards that. Linebacker Chris Board is one of the best special teamers that the league has, to be completely transparent. and New England had, really kept their eye on him. And I think he's going to be a big impact player, and his role might expand beyond special teams. So Chris Board is somebody else we have to watch. Riley Reef. Riley Reef has been a seasoned veteran, has spent a lot of time, a lot of different places, but the one thing you can count on is he should be able to play throughout the course of the entire NFL season. He's going to provide some stability. He had some nice years in the league, and let's not get that twisted. I think back to his early days in Detroit, he had some solid years. And I think with along all of his stops, he has made an impact. There were a couple tough years. And, I think back to Minnesota, he struggled a little bit there. But I think overall, this could be a positive move for the New England Patriots, followed by Kelvin Anderson as well, who is going to be another tackle that they might have to lean on during the course of the NFL season. So when I look in totality about what they were able to do in free agency, while there wasn't a lot of big splashes, there were big impact guys that remain in this free agency set that could set them up for long-term season success. Juju being one of those guys. Mike Gesicki is one of the most underrated signings of the offseason. New England was genius in terms of how they allocated their money to some of these free agents, not committing a ton long-term. And I think when you look at it, they could be some nice impact players that can help out this team potentially be competitive in a very, very tough AFC East. So overall, they did a great job with the free agent signings. Looking at some of the key draft picks, Christian Gonzalez was one of my favorite picks of the draft in terms of the schematic standpoint. He is going to work out beautifully with Bill Belichick, and I think he could turn into one of the top corners that this league has. I really firmly believe that. We have seen Bill Belichick do it time in, time out, long, lanky corners with good athleticism. This guy should be a potential Pro Bowler, and I firmly believe that. Christian Gonzalez has great hips, ball instincts, man-to-man skills. He possesses all the traits that you're looking for in a top tier corner, and they're going to put a lot of pressure on him on the perimeter to make some plays. And I think he will end up doing that for this team. Keion White is another one. I think when you look at Keion White, very, very strong, lower half of his body. This guy can move men, and that is a fact. I think he's going to do a lot of good in terms of being a rotational pass rusher for the Patriots, which they are always accustomed to doing. They love doing that with their front seven. A lot of guys in and out, a lot of fresh bodies out there, and they really pride themselves year in and year out on overall depth, and they do it some of the best in the league. Marte Mapu is one of those unsung heroes in the NFL draft that very well could be looked upon as a steal. I think Mapu's ability to play the safety position, he played some linebacker at Sacramento State. This guy has a ton of versatility and is a true chess piece for a defensive mind like Bill Belichick. Look at him to be one of those steals of the draft and people wondering, how did he fall to the third round? Fourth round, they end up getting Jake Andrews, a guard out of Troy, one of the more unsung prospects that a lot of people didn't hear about until, the draft process started to pick up. But Jake Andrews, they felt very, very comfortable selecting him there in that fourth round. And then Jake Ryland, the kicker. I think once again, New England likes to go outside of the box in terms of their draft strategy. We've seen them do that year in and year out. They don't care what you have them rated on your board. They are going to take their guy. Think back to Cole Strange. That was one of those big examples. Kyle Duggar went earlier than people had expected, but it works out. Why? Because Bill Belichick has an eye for talent. Therefore, they have some pretty interesting prospects heading into the year. Some guys that are going to make some big impact plays early on, and they're going to have to lean heavily on this grouping of prospects to be able to step in, develop quickly, and make a big impact on what they're trying to do on a weekly basis. Once again, this is a roster that has seen some turnover, and I think that this grouping is going to do a really, really good job. I think Christian Gonzalez is probably the prospect I'm the most excited to see. I think week one, he is going to be an impact player. He's going to be a guy that people start to quickly realize is one of the young stars in this league. So keep your eye out on Christian Gonzalez in that secondary. Taking a look at the offensive outlook, I am looking in totality of what they have across the board. Devontae Parker, Kendrick Bourne, Juju Smith-Schuster. This is a nice collection of three wide receivers that are going to be very steady for this offense. You have a true red zone guy in Devontae Parker. Juju and Kendrick Bourne can work across the middle, short to intermediate routes. And then I look at a couple of the guys like Tyquan Thornton, a high upside guy, and Kayshon Boutte. Keishawn Butte was my favorite guy that New England had added probably the entire offseason. Now, I think that when you look at what they were able to do in free agency, it was great. But Keishawn Butte, let's not forget about his impact at LSU just 2 years ago. He was thought to be a lock to be a top 10 selection heading into this past draft. Throughout the course of the season, he struggled at LSU. They had a quarterback change. And you look at it from the standpoint, Jaden Daniels was not the quarterback that was really best suited for Keishawn Butte. They did not throw the ball very well, and he was really the guy that suffered the most in terms of the distribution on offense and their more stylistic change to a running based offense rather than throwing it like they had with Max Johnson the prior season, who they were throwing the ball a ton with. Keishawn Butte is a player that very well, in my opinion, should have been taken in the first 3 rounds. I feel very strongly about that. Other people disagree, but a tremendous route runner, good hands, and good with the ball in open space. So overall, this wide receiver room is super exciting to me. I look at the tight end room, Hunter Henry, Mike Gesicki, some big-time playmakers, and I think they're going to be very effective in Bill O'Brien's offense. At the running back room, Ramondre Stevenson has a ton of pressure on him now. He is for sure that guy. Now, there's a couple of collection of young guys too, J.J. Taylor, Pierre Strong Jr., you have the savvy veteran in Ty Montgomery, Kevin Harris. A couple of these guys could make some impacts. And I think you're going to see some of these other young running backs rotated in. I'm kind of curious to see what Ty Montgomery's usage rate will be. I don't know if it's going to be super sizable. The offensive line has seen a little bit of change, but for the most part, you have your nucleus. You have Trent Brown, Cole Strange, David Andrews. I like this grouping. The only new starter you have, implemented in there that is potentially you would have some curiosity on would be Riley Reef. I don't know how much I can expect out of him. He is a veteran. He's a guy that maybe you can trust. I'm not exactly sure. You have Jake Andrews as the backup center potentially. This is going to be an offensive line that has some depth. We've seen it with Connor McDermott, Kelvin Anderson, and Jake Andrews. I feel very, very comfortable with that grouping sitting behind there. We know throughout the course of the season, there's a lot of injuries to offensive lines. And I think with this collective group, they are going to be a good cohesive unit. They should be able to protect Mac Jones, which is the last guy I'm going to talk about here, because Mac Jones is going to have to prove that he is the guy in New England. Some New England fans believe that he's a superstar. There are other people that are on the complete opposite end that don't feel like he is the franchise guy. So we have to kind of find a happy medium for Mac Jones. I think he is a serviceable quarterback. I think he can win in this league and could potentially take a team to the playoffs. I think there are some people that have to kind of reconvene and figure out exactly where he lies. So there is a lot of positives to his game. He's a really good decision maker, can climb the pocket, doing a lot of the things that you need him to do. However, I think that the production is going to change for the better this upcoming season. We're not going to see 14 touchdowns to 11 picks again. This could be a guy that very well could change the trajectory of what people view him as and for the positive light. Taking a look defensively, let's look at the outlook there. Keon White, one of the key guys added during the course of the draft. Marte Mapu, Christian Gonzalez, you're going to see highlighted there in green. But defensively, there are a ton of playmakers across the board. Jonathan Jones, Marcus Jones, Kyle Duggar. Adrian Phillips is sufficient. He'll work out, but I think they're going to work in Jabril Peppers quite a bit, Jalen Mills. So they do have some depth in that secondary. Miles Bryant. But across the front seven, let's take a look here. Juwan Bentley and Matthew Judon highlighting those linebackers. Jelani Tavai. Looking on the defensive line, you have Christian Barmore. Dietrich Wise is another guy that continues to be very consistent in his career. So defensively, this should be another top 10 level unit. They bring back Mac Wilson Sr. Anthony Jennings is another guy that I think could make some impact plays. Josh Uche, Chris Board. Defensively, they have a lot of nice defensive pieces that you can rotate in and out. They're going to be fresh during the course of the season. And that's something that's pretty exciting if you're a Patriots fan, kind of looking at where they could potentially be. Now, taking a look at the record prediction here, I do have them going 7-10. And the reason is because they have such a tough interdivision schedule I feel like they're going to pick up a couple wins there. However, I look at some of the games that are very winnable for them. Home against New Orleans, away against Vegas are two big ones. Home against Washington, home against the Chargers, I think it's a winnable game. They're going to take probably a game against the Jets, a game against the Dolphins, and potentially a game against the Bills. You really never know. But I think that every single team in their division, they are capable of beating. Another one in terms of like just getting a win outside of their division would be Indy. Indy, I feel pretty confident that they would be able to beat while at home. Maybe going on the road against the Giants, they could have some success, and maybe on the road against Denver. There's a lot of different teams that I could see them, beating, right? Pittsburgh's another beatable team. It's very hard for me to project exactly where New England's going to finish. However, I think when it all shakes out, they could be 7-10, potentially 8-9 is another record I could see being a likely outcome. But this Patriot team is kind of in a rebuilding stage, and they're trying to reconfigure, retool, re-identify exactly where they need to be. But I have a lot of confidence in Bill Belichick. I think that they very well could be that 8-9. Maybe they can win 9 games. That's another question we have to ask ourselves. How confident do we feel about this current roster? But once again, they are trending in the right direction. I absolutely do believe that. Now, some people are going to say that they're definitely going to win more than 7 games, but it's a little bit tougher with this division and how tough this division can be. I think this is kind of the record that you might be seeing here. Let me know in the comments section below who you are excited to watch for the New England Patriots heading into next season. I appreciate you watching the video. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you do enjoy NFL content. We're posting it all the time here on Utility Sports Plus. Once again, thank you again, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports Plus video.